Today on Man Up, we're going to have my friend Matt Winquist, and we're going to be talking about how to reach the youth of this generation.
Man Up is a series that challenges men to become strong, unique, discipled followers of Jesus. Hosts Troy Ferguson, Brent Zimmerman, and Victor Thomas. Welcome to Man Up.
Do you struggle with fear? It's one thing that all of us struggle with, is facing different fears in our lives. And I just wanted to encourage you today to face the fears that you might be dealing with in the sense of going after whatever God's calling you to do. If God's called you to do something, go after whatever He's called you to do and face those fears. The Bible says in 2 Timothy 1:7, "For God hath not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind." God does not give us the fear that we have whenever we're supposed to be doing something for Him. It's from the devil. And those fears are a tool of the devil to keep us from doing what God wants us to do. God has great plans for your life. If you're following Him and walking with Him, He has great plans for you, and He wants you to do things, but the devil's going to use a tool of fear to keep you down. But the rest of that verse says, "But of power and love and a sound mind," or self-control. God's given you the power to overcome your fears. God loves you. And you can love others as you try to minister or do whatever God's called you to do. And you can have self-control to overcome those troubling fears that you keep facing. I want to encourage you, as you face your fears next time, go after whatever God's called you to do and forget that fear, cast it aside and say, I have God's power, I have God's love in my life, and I can have a sound mind. I can face whatever I'm dealing with and go after it because God's with me. Stick around, we'll be right back.
Champion Roofing, the champs. Champion Roofing, we're the solution. You can count on the roofing pros. Our roots run deep and our integrity shows. Proud to serve you, we love what we do. With Champion's unbeatable warranties too. Champion Roofing, the champs. Champion Roofing, we're the solution.
Welcome back. On today's episode of Man Up, we have my good friend Matt Winquist. It's great to have you with us today.
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about yourself as we start the episode.
Okay. So I guess I would start. I grew up in upstate New York. I'm a big Buffalo Bills fan. Go Bills! I'll throw that in there.
Had to bring that up.
Yes.
I wish we would have known that.
Man, it's a rough way to start the episode.
But I started out pursuing my football dream, and so I started playing college football in upstate New York, small school. Eventually transferred to Liberty University, and there I met my wife, Elizabeth. She's from Altoona, and so we met there, started dating, got married within about 2 years. So I got married when I was 20, got married when I was kind of young. From Liberty, I finished with a degree in elementary ed, special ed, and then a minor in art. And so started coaching football right outside of Liberty there at a small school as a special ed teacher. And eventually we moved back here to Altoona, and where I've been a teacher now for about 10 years at Altoona School District, as well as Great Commission School, a small Christian school here in town. Now we homeschool our kids for about 3 years now, and then recently, about 2 years ago, started helping out at our church. I attend at Grace Bible Church here, and they needed help. They were going through a transition a little bit with a former youth pastor, and so I just said, hey, I'd help out. I never thought God would use me in this capacity, but now, I'm the junior high youth pastor there, and I'm just loving every second of that ministry.
Whenever you say in a church, hey, I'll help out, you realize that's a lifelong commitment when you say that?
Yeah, I think I am learning that now, for sure. I mean, I've helped out in other ministries with the church, but yeah, I think we saw that there was a need there, to jump in and help out, and God's just doing some awesome things there with the ministry. And
So we're going to get into some things
Sure.
with your experience with young people, but talk a little bit about the business you and your wife also oversee.
Yeah, so when we were down in Virginia at Liberty, we had our favorite little shaved ice shack. It was called Mr. Goodies, and so we would go there all the time. We moved up here, and we're like, man, we miss our shaved ice, and no one really had anything like that at the time, and so we said, hey, let's give it a go, and trusted God there. We started that business up. This is now, I think, our 12th year now with that little business.
Really?
Yeah, it's a little food truck business. Yeah, shaved ice and ice cream.
Yeah.
But it's a ton of fun. We usually have about 10 to 13, 14 employees, on a regular summer. So God's really blessed us in that, and just growing that little business.
And what is it? So everyone knows.
So it is shaved ice, and so it's like a snow cone, only better, right?
Yeah.
So the snow cone's a little crunchy, you gotta chew on it a little bit. Shaved ice will just melt in your mouth, And our thing, we call it island style, we like to put ice cream on the bottom. And that may sound weird too, like mixing water with dairy, but it's awesome.
I love it.
Okay, good, all right, good, yeah, it's so good, it really is.
The name, though, the name. Tell us the name.
Also, brain freezers.
Brain freezers.
Yeah.
There it is.
Yes, brain freezers, and the name is accurate. If you eat it too fast, I guarantee you'll get a brain freeze. And so we have like 45 flavors of shaved ice you can choose from. 5 flavors of Richie's ice cream we serve. So,
So you have experience working in a business realm with students, young people, and in ministry.
Right.
Can you tell us a little bit of what's the difference working with teenagers in those two different capacities?
Man, I mean, sure, it's a little different for sure, like the employee, I think, employer relationship. But I think in many ways it's the same. And I think sometimes my employees, if they're working a shift, with me, for example, especially if it's like a rainy day and we're kind of slow out there, they're like, oh man, I'm going in for like a therapy session with Mr. Matt, because I have them for like a 4-hour shift and it's a captive audience and we get to talk through some stuff, we don't, and so I enjoy those conversations with my employees as much as I do my students. With the youth group, truly our number one goal is that these students would grow in their faith. First know who God is and then grow in their faith with him and understand his love for them. And honestly, many of my employees are also Christian, and I love that as well. With the business, we're able to play, every Sunday we play Christian music. Some of our employees even do it on other days of the week, and that's okay. Many customers will be like, man, I hear the songs you guys are playing, this is awesome, they love that. This year we want to have some like nights of worship even out there at our brain freezer stand. People bring lawn chairs, come out and we just want to be that light in the community, and we want it to be a safe place for people to come and hopefully we can be that example in the business realm.
I bet you do well with kids.
I like to think so. Yeah, I enjoy.
You have a bubbly personality
okay,
that kids would relate to.
Yeah, I enjoy kids.
Yeah, and especially nowadays because some people consider teens to be like entitled brats. What's your experience working with the kids?
Man, I'll be honest. Sure, I think even over the 12 years I've been a business owner, I think I'm starting to see a little bit of a trend of, maybe students maybe don't work as hard, at times, but for the most part, man, kids, I think especially in the youth group, with my students there in ministry, man, they want to be challenged. And I think, I see some other youth groups maybe in the area or even other things I've been around that they're not real, they don't challenge their kids. And I feel like kids nowadays, they do. And truly, I think they rise to that challenge too, you know what I mean? And I think sometimes if we just let them, coast and we kind of see them as like, all right, maybe they're a little lazy, I think they'll accept that, and they can kind of fall into that victimhood the rest of their life. But I think we can challenge them, and it's cool to see many times they will rise to that challenge and they'll meet it, and exceed the expectations that we have for them.
We had a co-host on it said one time that too often they take kids and they want to run them down for what they don't know. Do you have any skill? Oh no, I never learned to use a hammer. And you have to start there with building them up and encouraging them. Do you find that works best?
Absolutely, man. I think, what's the old saying? Like bees will come more to like honey than they will like vinegar or something. I'm not good with the old saying, but right. You encourage a kid, man, and you see them just like the joy like fill them, like they come to life, right? And you, if you get down on a kid like that, man, that can really cause some long-term effects, truly. And so I think, the kids will respond greatly if you come along beside them. You equip them, you teach them the things that maybe they're falling short on, I think that's great.
Not dummy and not...
Absolutely, no way, yeah.
Is there any transformation story? I know you've only been full-time or part-time at the church since, October?
Yeah, I think it's September 27th, 29th, something like that.
Yeah, so it's been a little bit of time, but has there been any kids that you've seen really have changed, over that time? Some kids have been baptized and stuff like that. Have you one example or two examples?
Absolutely, and I think, I guess to back up, the transition period there with our church was difficult, with our former youth pastor, leaving, and again, that hole was there, and I remember, so there's a senior high youth pastor, his name's James Shepard, so we work together, and he and I it's pretty cool. We're almost exact opposites, I feel like, in many ways, like in looks, in character, like the way that we do, stuff. But it's so cool, I think, how we complement each other as well, right? Like we work so well together. And I remember that first Wednesday night, we had 22 students come out for our youth group, and we were like, we didn't know what to expect. Those 22 kids came out, and we were excited about those. We wanted to see who was going to emerge as leaders in our ministry. Just the other Wednesday, we had 80 students, in our youth group, and we average about 70, students on a Wednesday night, which is just really cool and encouraging. And so to see like new faces coming out, constantly, that's just really exciting. It's not always about numbers, for sure. And I think as numbers grow, there's great difficulties that also come with ministry, and trying to reach all the students is getting difficult. But there have been quite a few students that we've seen make some huge decisions, whether it's been at like winter retreat or even just in a Wednesday night, I think to see like a young faith in somebody is really cool. Like the light bulb went on, like, man, God loves me, like despite all the stuff I've done. And to see them like truly on fire for the Lord, man, it's really actually encouraging, and like gets you excited to keep doing ministry. Honestly,
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Matt, whenever you've been doing brain freezers, you said 12 years?
Yeah, I think this is 12.
So someone who's watching this, maybe a young man thinking they have an entrepreneurial mindset and they want to start a business.
Sure.
What's something that you could say, here's some things that we did right, here's some things that we did wrong in getting this concept rolling?
Listen, there's as many good things that have happened, there's been many bad things that have happened. And like I shared, like my degrees were not in business, and so I learned on the fly. And so sometimes that can be a costly way to learn, for sure. And I think our growth has been slow as well, but it's been steady and slow. But man, my suggestion would be, man, if you truly have a dream like that and you have something you want to pursue, man, go for it. I really think that God has been faithful. And I'm 37 years old, and I'm see that more and more. Now I'm starting to get the gray hair and stuff. Like I see, like I can look back and sorry.
Please, please, come on.
Hey,
come on.
But no, for real, like I think it's been cool to see, like God has been faithful. There's a song, I think it's called "The Battle Is Already Won." I don't know if you're familiar with that one, Shane. And the line, the one lyric in there goes, "I don't know what you're doing, but I know what you've already done." Right? And I love that line because that's like, in those times, like, man, what am I doing? Like, I might feel in over my head, like I'm chasing this dream. Man, but God's been faithful before. He will still be faithful. And that's what we've seen all along. Like, God, we might have a rainy season. It's a very seasonal business. This Brain Freezers is a cold, rainy summer. Man, but God comes through. And He always surprises us and blows us away with the way He does come through. So I say go for it.
You just took on a new role with the Altoona Curve. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so that's exciting. It's a new ministry that they asked if we would help and be the chaplain for the Altoona Curve, and so they asked if like a pastor would spearhead it, and we're kind of forming a team with some guys at our church to help out with that. But it's been really cool. I met with the Pirates chaplain. He's also the Pittsburgh Penguins chaplain as well. He came out and trained me this past weekend. But meeting with the Curve players, and just being around the baseball culture has just been really cool. Walking through even the locker room, meeting some of the guys. I'm 6'4", 6'5" on a good day, and I felt small in there. Like some of these guys are big, and just being around the professional athletes. But it's a cool ministry because it's voluntary for them to come out if they want to. Yeah. And we had about 10 guys come out, and awesome. It was just really cool to be a part of that.
Talk a little bit about that. I know we're kind of wrapping up this segment, but okay. I'm interested to know what is that compared to student ministry?
Yeah.
What's it like ministering in that environment?
Well, I'll tell you what, it's not a whole lot different than youth. It's grades 7 through 12 as a youth. It's really just an extension of that. They're a couple years out. Sure, they're a little different stage of life. They're pursuing a dream to play, in the major leagues someday. But it's not a whole lot different than, I think, 11th, 12th grade students in our youth group. And so, they just need to know that God loves them at the end of the day. They need to know that He has a plan for them. We were working through Mark chapter 1 when Jesus calls His early disciples, says, hey, come follow me. And that invitation is open to everyone, including them, and so that's
cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Matt, would you stick around for the next segment?
Sounds good.
Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
This segment is brought to you by Harry's Construction, whose motto is, if you can dream it, we can create it. They are the kitchen and bath design experts, so call Harry's Construction for all your remodeling needs.
Next time, we will talk about forgiveness, and then we will have Haley Parson join us to discuss her story.
I knew it was him though. I knew it was his voice, and I was like, oh Lord, okay. Okay. You know, I just said okay. And I said to my husband, I said, Dan, God told me to quit. And he instantly said, okay, do it.
Wow.
And so that was sort of confirmation that we were on the same page.
All that and more on Let's Talk About It.
Welcome back. Let's discuss our experiences in reaching the youth of this generation. Yeah, different things that we've all faced. We've all had trials and struggles, even successes in reaching different youth. Anybody want to start?
I'll tell you what. Of course, Matt talked about last segment, but one of the things that I have learned about reaching youth, you have to have a relationship with them. I think maybe when I was growing up, there was an expected and a directed respect as a teenager to an adult. I don't know that is developed, but one of the things that I've seen is as you have a relationship, they will respect you. It may not be inherent like it was maybe of some of us are a little older of our generation, but there was a trip, I'll just tell you a quick story. There was a trip that I had to do with our teenagers. It was a National Fine Arts trip. I didn't hardly know any of the kids, but I had to as the representative, as a pastoral representative on this trip. We had a bunch of teenagers, and it was such a struggle because they didn't know me, I didn't know them. So when I was giving all these, barking these commands, do this, be here, go there, there was a resistance.
Yeah.
But as time went on, and I will say this, as I built relationships with them after this trip, many of them came back to me and apologized. But the inherent relationship wasn't there, so the respect wasn't there. So my point is, one of the ways that I have learned to impact teenagers is you don't just expect them to respect you, you build a relationship with them, and they will.
Oh, yeah.
And I like you talk about challenging them. I think whenever you challenge them, and just don't say, well, you need to do this better and you need to do that better. Right. You challenge them, have a relationship. So that's, in my experience, working with teenagers has had the biggest impact.
You know, that's good. There's a phrase that it takes a village to raise a child, and that's one of the things that always started in our household. My mother always instilled, when you're out there, if I went down to Fifth Avenue, this person could correct me. One of her friends, if they saw me doing wrong, or another person that knew my mother, if they saw me, man, they had the same authority to spank my behind. And now this is the truth. But nowadays, you can't have that because you have nowadays children call the abuse hotline, and they'll even report parents, let alone the friends of your parents. So that's one of the things that it has to start in the household. With knowing, okay, it does take a village to raise a child. And when you're out there, you should always conduct yourself as though you're your parent's child. Make sure that you're going to walk as your parents would have you walk. But nowadays you see, and I see there's a security officers I know who they may be at McDonald's in the morning, and the kids sometimes stop there on the way to the high school. And man, you talk about the language that they use towards these officers, and you can't tell me anything. They told the one security officer, and it's one of those things that it really has to start in the household with incorporating and enforcing that type of behavior. And that's our job as parents. And it has to be not only us as ministers and people in the household of faith, but the parents also, that they come along and they agree, hey, what Pastor Troy told you, this is the truth. And that's where it really has to start.
That's good.
I think we have to be careful in prejudging, and then also labeling all of the kids the same, or the teenagers or young adults that you're working with the same, because they're not all the same in the way they act. Just to give you an example, my mentor, by the time he got to me, this guy became like my dad. He's still to this day like my dad. I'm 40 now, but when I first met him, he saw me as a teenager. And he thought, and I asked for work to work at their house and different things. He had a business. And at first he was like, I've already done this. I've already had these teenagers. They were annoying. I don't want any more teenagers to work for me. And then he's told the story multiple times to other people. He said once I started working for him, I was different than the other teenagers that he had. And I'm not bragging on myself. I had a grandfather that instilled in me, hey, you respect people and stuff like that. And so I'm thankful that mentor took a chance on me and didn't look at those past experiences and say, I'm done with the youth. And so, people listening to this, make sure you don't just label them all as one bunch.
Sure.
You know what I mean? There's good kids in different groups. They might look the same, but once you start talking to them, work with them. And they might be good kids for your business or even for in your youth group that you can really disciple and spend time with. You know what I mean? Do you have anything to say to that?
Yeah, I would say, my life verse I love is 1 John 4:19. It says, we love because he first loved us. And man, I think, like you were saying, Troy, like, man, I know an old saying too is you have to earn the right to be heard, and I think that's so true with the youth, especially. You have to build that relationship with them. They have to know that you care, and at the end of the day too, the most important thing, they have to know that God cares for them, that he loves them. And that is, I think, what can help bridge that gap between like some of that, divide that we have. And again, thinking about youth, we have an opportunity to impact their life, on an hour and a half on Wednesday night, maybe Sunday morning a little bit, maybe a little bit through a text here and there. But you're right, it has to also be at home. That's where it's got to start, man.
Yeah.
We need the parents jumping in. We need the village helping out. Everyone, all hands on deck.
Definitely. But I see it when you look at some of the college kids nowadays. And the one kid from Ohio State who went to one of the revivals, and next thing you know, he's bringing so many teammates up. And they're getting baptized. And so this generation is so much more inquisitive than what we were. They're going to ask questions. And like Troy said about taking a history, it's like a generation that, a show me generation, because we can speak things, but then your actions may betray your words. And some kids nowadays, they want to see, hey, show me. Show me your lifestyle. And I see that now. Man, that was so touching. The kid from Ohio State, I forget the quarterback's name, and the rest of the kids that showed up at the revival. Next thing you know, just about half the football team was baptized right there at that revival session.
I tell you what, Victor, I'm seeing report after report after report of God doing a miraculous thing on college campuses. A lot of times we think of, especially a secular college, we think of just it's party central.
Yeah.
All these kids do is drink and have sex, and that's all they do. But it's miraculous to see that these kids are just seeking God.
Yeah.
Have you guys seen anything about the different colleges that's going on right now? It's been remarkable.
Yeah.
They're searching. These kids they're searching and they're finding out that all the things that they're trying to cope with and the situations they're facing or even the party scene's not fulfilling. And so they're looking for that hope, and God's the only place they're going to find it.
Yeah, no, that's good because, through that adversity, kids will be drawn closer to God.
Yeah.
But I would say this also, and I'm thankful to parents who they let you make decisions and choices on your own. Sometimes parents will give unsolicited adults, and when you're going from being a child to being a man, sometimes parents have to let you fail to understand, okay, he's going to understand responsibility. And, you see that now with so many kids. I think there's a generation that just wants to live in the house later. In my generation, you were out of the house while you're 18. By the time you're 18, now it's more kids are living in the household. And parents have to make sure that they teach their children the responsibility. Okay, do you want to get a job? It's not just kicking the kids out, but you prepare them for that next stage.
Yeah.
And that happens in the church as well. So that's where the church will help with that process of transition of getting kids from being a kid to being a responsible adult.
Absolutely.
Matt, you have business, youth pastor, Curve. Would you just give some explanation on how you've, like with your business, how you've mentored the youth there to maybe they have obstacles when they first come in and you've helped them grow, or just give something you've done with the youth there, or things you're going to implement at That's in a Curve that you're like, hey, we're going to have this process of discipleship.
Yeah, man, I think, giving the kids are searching, like we said earlier, they're hungry for, I think, answers, and they're inquisitive, and man, at the end of the day, I want them to know their identity. If they can truly be rooted in their identity in who God says they are, that's the awesome, best thing I think for them, because the world is going to pull at them, it's going to tug at them for the rest of their life. But if they can go back to that solid foundation, and so, man, with the youth that I'm, working with at church, I want them to understand that, before they leave these walls of that church, man, I want them to know how God sees them, not the way that the world sees them. And honestly, it's the same thing with my kids in my home. You know, my 3 children. Same thing with my employees. I want them to know that as well. Like, and it spills out into my conversations even with my employees. And I think that's okay. I want them to know where I stand on it. I want them to, maybe someday if they are facing adversity, they're like, man, who am I going to turn to? Oh man, that crazy boss I used to have, you know, Matt Winquist. Like I want them to be able to like know that they can come back to me and find some godly advice, and I'd love to speak it into their life.
You know, Matt, one of the things you said I think is valuable is we, as adults, men, when we man up, have a sense of vulnerability to say, okay, I screwed this up. Mm-hmm. Because sometimes I think kids just look at the adults as they're so separated from me because they're professional, they're this or that. But whenever we can say, you know what I did, what I said was wrong, and I apologize. And I think that allows teenagers, young men, to also look at us and say, okay, they're real. I'm dealing with this issue. I'm going to go talk to Matt because he's gone through some stuff. He's real. And I think that has a lot of value when we can do that.
Yeah, genuineness.
Yeah.
And kids seek that, you know, because growing up, you go through a lot of hurts. You go through a lot, so you want people who are genuine.
Yeah.
And you know, as a parent, that's really one of the things that our children want to look to see. How does Dad handle these mistakes when he falls? Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of little eyes, lot of little ears, you know, listening and watching.
That's right.
And kids are smart, like you said. Man, they can tell if you're genuine or not.
Yeah.
And they can see that.
That's good.
Well, that's all the time we have. Matt, thanks for being with us today. It was a blessing to have you. You know, it was great. Thanks for tuning in with us today, and we'll see you next week.
Impact Productions, a multi-layer technology company providing on-site, online, and in-studio video services. Contact Impact Productions to capture your story.
Made by Vogel is a father and son business that produces high-quality handmade wooden products such as cutting boards, bowls, bottle stoppers, and more. Products for sale can be found on their Etsy site or in downtown Altoona at the Clay Cup. You can't go wrong buying from Made by Vogel.
Next time on Man Up, we're going to have Pat Irwin and talk about growing up with a legendary father.
For my work, I work at for Leonard S. Fiore. Leonard was my grandfather. We're in our 3rd generation. Have the benefit of working around a lot of my family members. There's 7 or 8 of us in the business currently. We just celebrated our 70th year, and you know, in construction.
All that and more next time on Man Up.